Hey, everybody, welcome to just a really quick monologue pod today. Is I am going to give you my thoughts on Big 12 Media Day, which happened today in Las Vegas. Still weird to be in Las Vegas for Big 12 Media Day, but I'll tell you all about it. I actually thought that it was very beneficial today. I feel like I learned a lot about this Iowa State football team, and I'll pass that along to you here. We also have some stories up. I wrote a big column on the Big 12, which I will touch on here in this podcast, but I'd like you guys to read it. I don't get to just sit down and write very often anymore, and it's really my passion, and I really, really enjoy doing it, and I really took some time to do that today. So just go make me feel good and go and click on that link and read what I had to say about it. It's not just the Big 12 now. It is the evolution of the league that got us here to Las Vegas with 16 teams. And that's what this column is about, and where I think there's more to come. I think that I'll just start here. The timing couldn't have worked out more conveniently. First of all, Brett Yormark didn't talk about expansion or anything like that today. But yesterday, so it would have been Monday the 8th if you're listening to this on Wednesday, a lot of reports coming out of Florida about the ACC and these court documents. And there's a lot going on out there. And I feel like this is probably a kind of a rebuilding year in that sense of not a ton of Big 12 news, but there's something going to happen in the ACC. And, where will the Big 12 be when it comes to picking up those pieces is a big question I have. More important question is where the people with the money, where are they at when it comes to that? And it would be who has the money. Because in the past, we've seen Fox and ESPN constantly, maneuvering chess pieces with these leagues. And is that Fox and ESPN going forward? Is Amazon a part of that? Is Netflix a part of that? Like, how is the new playoff when this contract's up? Splitting up games. It's a super interesting deal. So go read that column, and you can get more of my more in-depth insight on this. I'm sure Blum and I will talk about this on Sunday night's podcast. Really quick reminder before I get into this Iowa State stuff that we will be live at 9:30 in the morning this Saturday from Rocco Beck's camp in the community of Perry. We will be live on all of our social media platforms and specifically the YouTube page. And you can see Blum and I will be there to interview players, personalities, whoever we can get our hands on at that camp. We're going to put a headset on them and have a good time. So we're looking forward to that. Aiden will be there producing it. We'll have multiple cameras. Really, really looking forward to that. That'll be a special day in general. And then we are having our big pro wrestling event for our charity, Living Ava's Way, Saturday night in Bondurant. I would encourage all of you to come. We're going to have face painters. We're going to have live music. We are going to have beer. We're going to have food tents, food trucks, that is. And just a little hint. We got some Iowa State athletes coming, and they are going to be my enforcers in case anybody in that ring gets out of line. I will have Iowa State players in attendance. Just a little hint. So our friends at Impact Pro Wrestling are going to be in town. Please contact me. I put up a link on all my social media feeds where you can get every piece of information you need for this Saturday night. It is going to be an awesome night, and I look forward to a great day of giving back with Rocco's camp, and then see whatever we can do to promote that and the great people of Perry. And then we're going to mosey on over to Bondurant for the Living Ava's Way pro wrestling / music get together, whatever you want to call it. It'll be a great time. And we have a donkey that will be walking around handing you beer. I'm serious. We hired a donkey that will walk around. If you want a beer, you page that ass and say, "Hey, I need a beer." It's going to be walking around the event. I can't wait. So, listen, this is the best of Matt Campbell, in my opinion. I think that we get we get him in really good spots to speak to the media a couple times a year. It's always when I do my off-season podcast with him, which he's always every year since we've been doing this. He's been generous with his time to give us time in the off-season to do these in-depth podcasts. I believe those are amazing. And then I think he's phenomenal at this event. And I'm not talking about what you guys see on TV. I'm talking about what we get from Matt, which is off on the side where the local pool reporters can go in there and have conversations. And I thought today was no different. He gave some really good nuggets. He is really high on this football team. And, you know, he did not shy away from it either. He is high on this football team. Like, Matt didn't do anything today to push expectations away. He welcomed them. Multiple Iowa State players tell me today what we've been hearing is the goal is to win a championship. And they didn't tone that down at all today in Las Vegas. If anything, it was heightened a little bit by what Matt had to say about this group. So some notes in the big one, and it's on our front page right now at cyclonefanatic.com. So Matt kind of hinted at this, and it was funny. Like, I don't think he meant for it to be a big deal, and I still don't know like how big of a deal it actually is, because we'll just have to wait and see. But he talked about playing more in a four-man front this year defensively, which, listen, it doesn't mean that the dime stack and Haycock's three-man front is broken. If they do this, I think what this means is you simply, guys, the numbers don't lie. When you look at their getting to the quarterback, it's dropped off the last couple of years. They had 31 sacks, I think it was, in 2021. In 2022, they had 18, and last year they had 20, I think is what it was, off the top of my head. They're not getting to the quarterback, and they believe that that's a really talented group of defensive linemen, okay? They think that they can go pretty much too deep across the board on the defensive line. But I don't know if there's that top-end guy like a Jaquan Bailey or a Will McDonald. Hopefully a Oniedium will turn into that. I think Dominic Orange is every bit as good as your Ray Limas and your Isaiah Lees and those guys. But, they need help getting to the quarterback. And, when you go back and watch a lot of those games last year, where there were a couple problems. One, the secondary couldn't stay healthy, right? Like, that was a big problem. You had three guys who, man, it wasn't very often that Verdon, Cooper, and Freiler played together. Like, one of those guys was hurt most of the year. So, so that was your first problem. And we acknowledge that. But, boy, they just aren't getting to the quarterback. And it makes it a lot harder to play in the back end, especially when you're young. Like, a lot of those guys, your Jamison Pattons, these freshmen are out there for the first time because of injuries. When you're not getting to the quarterback, it makes it harder to play linebacker, all that stuff. So it's a two, from what I've put together, from what they've said, like, they really like these defensive linemen. They want to get more of them on the field. And that's a good thing for Iowa State. I mean, I remember not very long ago where Paul Rhodes switched to a three-man front, and it was the opposite. They didn't have enough D linemen. So we'll see how this works. And I also want to tap the brakes. I don't think that overreaction should happen here. I think this will be largely matchup driven. You will see Iowa State in a three-down lineman quite a bit this year. This is not some wholesale change that I'm aware of. But Matt threw it out there. I didn't even ask about it. Like, that was Matt's quote. which I thought was interesting. And then I talked to J.R. Singleton and Bo Freeler both about it. And yeah, they confirmed it, and they're expecting to do more of it. And that's to me, as a guy, and I know many of our listeners, you're just like me, where we study Iowa State. We don't just consume it; we study it. That's a fascinating development. One that I am not surprised. I know the conversations that were going on in that coaching staff last year, where we got to find a way to get more pressure on these quarterbacks. It's too hard. They can't just sit back there and be able to do that. And they're looking at their D line, and they're pretty happy right now. They think that these are some dudes, and they think that the guys who were out there last year was interesting to me too. When I've watched games this summer, they were really close. Like Onyedem, like to me, like he had a really good year. He was really close from having a great year, I thought. And then I think Dom Orange was awesome, but it's hard to put up stats there. Like they're pretty close. And we'll see. You also have to realize that the Big 12 is just playing vastly different offense than it was when Campbell and his staff got here. And that's a big part of this too, I think. So this is going to change. When you're playing Baylor and the coordinator that they brought in, and you're probably going to see 3 down linemen most of that game, right? Like this is a matchup thing. But when Iowa comes to town, you'll probably play 4, right? Like because you know what they're going to do. So I'm looking forward to diving into that as the season approaches, because I love defensive line play. I have become especially fascinated by just everything that John Haycock and Matt Campbell and that defensive staff have done over the years. It's just, to me, like they are really innovators when it comes to that side of the ball. You've seen an entire generation of defensive football that was basically born in Ames, which is pretty cool. Now I want to see how they evolve from here. So we'll do that. That was the first thing that really stood out to me today. The other thing, Matt said that I thought was interesting, and Matt tends to not be wrong about this stuff. He said that he thinks that the linebacker rooms is in good of shape as he's had at Iowa State. Now, that doesn't mean that any of these guys are better than Mike Rose. What that means is just he really likes the depth, and they've got some injuries there. But that's encouraging to me, because coming into today, I think I said this to Blum on Sunday, if I had to find a hole in this Iowa State team that I was concerned about, it was the defensive front 7, the front 6, or whatever you want to call it with Iowa State. And so that was addressed. The 4 down linemen, we'll see how that evolves. And maybe they try it a few games, don't like it. I don't know. But I think you can have an ability here with some injuries at linebacker, but you really like your guys, with you really like these guys. You could very easily play 2 linebackers, and then you've got options to play 5 in the secondary, and there's a lot of different things they can do. The offense, I don't recall being this bullish on an Iowa State offense. I know in 21 we all were, and that whole deal just felt different. Like you're coming off of the Fiesta Bowl win, you're ranked in the top 10. Everybody was high on Iowa State. That and it's not the case now, right? Like they were picked 6 in this league, but I mean, Matt's really excited about this group, and rightfully so. I think I'll say it. I told Blum this a couple weeks ago on one of our Wednesday shows. I think Higgins is the best wide receiver prospect to come through Ames. Like as far as like draftable goes, which I know is a big statement. Alan Lazard's had a great NFL career. Xavier Hutchinson's on his way to having a great NFL career. Hakeem Butler is a star in professional football. I think Jaden Higgins will be the highest drafted of that group, and I think he could potentially set some pretty big records this year at Iowa State as far as wide receivers go. I think you're talking about that kind of guy. The way he came on at the end of last year, from what I've heard about his strength and conditioning in the offseason, to the type of guy he is off the field, I'm just going to leave it. And he's got guys around him is the biggest thing. You know, like they are really good at wide receiver. When you talk about Noel, when you talk about the two transfers, and then, you know, guys like Benny, last name slipped my mind, kid from Nebraska. Like there's a lot of talent in that room, and then you've got the tight ends to go with it, and you've got a distributor at quarterback who I have all the confidence in the world in with Rocco. So listen, this isn't like the Williams hype show. July 9th, Iowa State's going to win the Natty. I'm not saying a lot of stuff that you guys – Nagoye, thank you, Aiden, Benny Nagoye. I'm not saying a lot of stuff that you guys don't know. But what I'm saying is that the coach backed it up today to a national audience that he's really excited about this group. And that makes me excited because the one thing I can say about Campbell is that when he talks, which isn't very often, he usually has something to say that's worthwhile. And I thought he was great today. I thought Matt was great today. I really came away excited about Iowa State football. So those are just some thoughts. We're obviously going to get more in depth. I am working on a little notebook for all of our premium subscribers that I'll have up in the next 24 hours with stuff that I heard today. But please go read my column on the Big 12. Aiden did a great job I was sending him videos. So we have, if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube feed, please do it now. CFTV, it's Cyclone Fanatic TV on YouTube. Video interviews with Bo Freeler, Jalen Knoll, Jaden Higgins, and J.R. Singleton are all there. And of course, the one I would really encourage you to watch is the 15-minute one with Matt Campbell, because I thought he was great today. He's usually good in these, but I really, really, really thought Matt was open today and gave us a lot of great insight on this year's team. So with that, I'm going to wrap this up, and I'll be coming back on Wednesday. We will have the Kicking It guys had David Montgomery on this week. So good job out of them. They're just killing it over there with their guest lineup. Go and check that out. Blum and I, Saturday morning, 9:30. Of course, that show will be on demand as well. All the great stuff from Rocco Beck's camp in Perry. All right, I'm Chris Williams here from Las Vegas. Thanks to all of you for listening. Aiden Wyatt for producing this bad boy. We'll talk soon here on the Cyclone Fanatic Podcast Network.